It is long overdue for me to make a video about Embrys The Anomaly, so here we are. This is going to be my review slash showcase slash talking about Embrys. So he is one of the 5 mythicals that I have on my account so far. Don't get too jealous though, because 3 of these are free to play friendly. But yeah, he is an absolutely fantastic champion. So I'm going to be walking you kind of through how I have him built, the stats you're looking for, and all those sorts of good things. Channel memberships are live, so down below there's going to be a join button if you want to support the channel a little bit extra. And of course, go ahead and hit the subscribe and the like button while you're there as well. And then of course, Discord is linked down below too if that's something you want to get in on. Embrys The Anomaly comes from the Chimera. Everybody should have him either fairly soon or within the next couple of weeks here, just depending on how lucky you've been with your Chimera keys. And of course, if you've been able to hit higher levels of Chimera. So what does he do? Let's take a look at his kit. Fetid Glaive AoE destroys target's max HP by 3%, stacks up to 30. Also increases the duration of one random debuff on all allies by 1 turn. These effects cannot be resisted, or this effect cannot be resisted, if enemies have any Necrosis stacks, which is something we'll get into a little bit further here. Void Stare A2 places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. 50% decrease attack for 2 turns. These effects cannot be resisted if enemies have Necrosis, and grants an extra turn. Finally, the Unmaking level 3 AoE removes any stone skin. This does not need accuracy, and replaces them with True Fear. This does need accuracy. Block debuffs will be replaced with block buffs. So essentially you're getting an AoE strip. Like, let me just clarify how this works, right? So you're getting an AoE strip that does not require accuracy, right? And it's guaranteed to remove any buffs they have, essentially, unless Lightning Cage interacts with them. That's the only way to prevent it. But you do need accuracy to replace them with the negative side. So removes any buffs positively affecting stats and replaces them with their mirrored debuff equivalent. So increase attack becomes decrease. Continuous heal and strength will be replaced with heal reduction and weaken. You know, they will have the same duration as the buffs they were replacing. Steals 5% of the target's turn meter for each buff converted into a debuff by the skill. Also decreases the turn meters of all enemies by 20%. And guess what? These effects cannot be resisted if they have any Necrosis stacks. It's insane. Damage based on HP on all his skills, by the way. Passive, wrongful existence. Whenever an enemy is killed, places 1 Necrosis stack on all other enemies. Necrosis stacks cannot be resisted or blocked. Necrosis stacks can only be removed by reviving dead allies. This effect does not work against bosses that are minions. If there are multiple champions on the team with a skill, this effect will only activate once. At the start and end of this champion's turn, instantly activates any Necrosis stacks. What does Necrosis do? Let's go ahead. Let's take a look here, because it is a bit of a unique debuff that is specific so far to Embrys. So let's go ahead and just keep scrolling here. Necrosis: when an enemy champion dies, a single Necrosis stack is placed on all other alive enemies. When another champion dies, an additional Necrosis stack will be placed on all other alive enemies, and so on. I don't know why they had to clarify that, but each Necrosis stack deals damage equal to 5% of a champion's max HP at the beginning of their turn. For example, if they have 3 stacks, it's going to be damage equal to 15% of their max HP. And keep in mind, he is doing it at the beginning and at the end of his turn. So if we're going in live arena, we kill one of the enemies, there's still 3 enemies left. They're going to be taking 15% max HP damage both at the start as well as at the end of his turn. So 30% max HP gone already, and that's on top of any sort of skills that he can do that are dealing damage. Necrosis stacks do not decrease upon activation at the beginning of a turn, and Necrosis is placed on a champion irrespective of the number of debuffs that are currently on them. This basically means if their debuff bar is full of like poisons or some other bullshit, you're still going to get the Necrosis placed on them. Damage dealt by Necrosis cannot be increased by other effects, and placement of a stone skin buff will remove Necrosis, which is a bit interesting. So there's a couple of champions inside the game that can place stone skin. So like our base, for example, Anorn, I think is his name, from the dwarves, they can remove the Necrosis from themselves. If there are any dead enemy champions in the battle after a stone skin buff expires, Necrosis stacks equal to the number of dead enemy champions will be reapplied. When a dead enemy champion is revived, a single Necrosis stack is removed from alive enemies. If multiple champions are revived, Necrosis stacks will be removed, equal to the number of champions revived. So essentially, he places them. If they get revived, though, they lose the Necrosis, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at his form, too, where he has the really, like, horror-esque weapon here, like the Call of Cthulhu. I'm trying to think of, like, the the specific author that is known for this. I can't remember the name, though, at the moment. I'm sure it'll come to me at some point here in the future. On his form, too, though, his A1 attacks one enemy, Unmaker's Blade, places an extra hit if the target has any Necrosis stacks, so it's a 2-time smack. You can get around, like, UDKs and stuff with this, and also just, you know, places a block revive if it kills an enemy. You know, nothing too crazy. A2, Atomize AoE, deals double damage to enemies whose accuracy is lower than this champion's accuracy. So you're looking at like your supports, like your Duchess, your Marichkas, your Ancoras, those sorts of champions. Ignores 50% of each enemy's defense whose accuracy is equal to or higher than this champion's accuracy. So a little bit weird. You don't necessarily need the ignore defense on champions who have high accuracy, because who's going to be running high accuracy, right? If you think about it, champions like Ramen 2, Armands, Fabian, you know, in some cases maybe a Marius, your lockout champions like Warlord and those sorts of things, who generally aren't that tanky. So it's a little bit weird, but I mean, it works. It's very effective at essentially doing more damage. Your life is forfeit. Swaps HP with an enemy if the target is a boss, fully restores this champion's destroyed max HP, and fully heals this champion instead. Each time this skill is used, increases this champion's defense effect, or ignore defense effect rather, by 10%, while in their alternate form, stacks up to 50%, and grants an extra turn. So you come in, you swap HP, you're now ignoring 10% more defense on all his skills. You get an extra turn to do whatever the hell you want. He's pretty crazy, obviously. Degenerator passive. When this champion dies, reflects damage equal to 50% of the fatal hit back to the attacker, including any surplus damage. This is insane. This can one-shot basically any enemy inside the game if they kill Embrys, which is just wild. Whenever an enemy is killed, places a Necrosis stack on them. They cannot be resisted or blocked. Necrosis stacks can only be removed by reviving dead allies. This effect does not apply against bosses and their minions. Multiple champions, you know the deal. And in an active effect, if this champion is about to get killed by a fatal hit, preempts that hit and instantly places a revive on death on him for 1 turn before the damage is taken. So this is insane, right? Because he's saying, hey, I'm over here, right? Hit me. I'm going to do a shit ton of damage back to you if you kill me. And then I'm also just going to revive. So, you know, that's pretty cool. It is absolutely insane. And finally, he has an HP in all battles by 35%, which is one of the strongest HP boosting auras out there. This guy is just absolutely insane. Lovecraft, by the way, is the name of the genre that I was thinking about. HP Lovecraft. It came to me randomly. I told you it would. So here we go. Blessings. What do we have him in? We have him in Helm Smasher. And then we have him coming over to the counterattack masteries. Nothing too crazy there. For the relic, I do have him inside Essence Quencher, so that he gets a little bit additional crit damage. He gets attack, obviously, too, but he's not really, you know, scaling off of that. If you don't have Essence Quencher, obviously Wanda Submission, everybody's going to have. That would be fantastic on him. Any sort of a damage-dealing relic, so like a Gore Crescent. And Irethi Coronet is actually like surprisingly good on him too, because he's placing a lot of debuffs, obviously, so he can scale up very quick. Cat's Gaze. There's a lot of good options out there, right? Just any sort of a damage boosting relic is what you're looking for. In terms of the gems, this is what I have here. So each time the wearer kills an enemy, increases damage dealt by 10%, stacking up to 30%, which is insane. If no enemy's taken a turn yet, his first attack will deal 10% more damage. Not really that applicable in my opinion. And then obviously we do have a rare gemstone here that would be nice to switch out, but I don't have any good triangular gemstones. So let's go ahead and take a look at his stats. 78k on the HP, 271 on the speed. I got him built kind of fast. 100 and then 267 on the crit rate and crit damage respectively. 355 on the accuracy. Inside his base form, this is how he's looking, so a little bit more HP. A little bit slower as well, oddly enough, right? So his speed does change when he's in his secondary form, but he also gets more crit damage, which is pretty cool. In terms of the sets that you're looking to build him with, ideally you're going to have him inside Stone Skin, as well as like Lethal or Savage or something like that, but I unfortunately was not able to get that combination, so I had to build him inside Stone Skin for 1 turn, and then he just has like a random feral piece on him as well, right? So he's not doing anywhere near as much damage as he could be doing if he was built out inside like the meta-defining sets. So certainly, you know, farm your Lethal, get some better HP damage dealer gear there. I essentially just couldn't get him to the speed that I wanted with the damage dealing gear, so we're essentially just depending a little bit more on those Necrosis stacks being placed and whatnot. I'll go ahead and click through here and just show you the gear pieces. As I always say, certainly this gear is not min-maxed, right? So there's plenty of stats still being left on the table here. So, you know, ascensions on amulets and those sorts of things are going to be absolutely huge for helping him do more DPS. Now, let's go ahead and run him inside the Dragon's Lair here and just really show you what he's capable of. So, just finished recording my test on Carnage. That's probably going to go live, I would say, before this video. But we're going to go ahead and do some damage testing and just a little bit of a showcase here on the Embrys. Now, I will just give you a warning that he's not going to do crazy damage, right? He's not going to be absolutely obscene or anything like that. But we're going to go ahead and hit the True Fear as well as decrease attack on them into the extra turn. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to metamorph over to our second form. We're going to go ahead and open with his A3 so we get the HP swap, which increases the defense ignore. And then we're going to hit the AoE, which is hitting for 235k. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is 235k on a champion that is not built inside Savage, inside Lethal, inside Merciless, anything, right? This is just straight up a whack. 91k on the A1 as well. Now, obviously, these counterattack masteries are going to come in very, very handy if we're actually getting hit by the enemies and whatnot. And then additionally, on top of that, he can essentially go ahead and just eat some hits considering that he is such a tanky champion, right? So we're going to go ahead and hit his AoE A1 as well with a decreased max HP. Boom! 56k across the board. I've seen some 76 procs as well. Now, you're also going to start to see the Necrosis stacks just absolutely blasting the enemies. So every time he takes a turn, they're going to take Necrosis damage. He absolutely just whacks them for like 106k on the third wave there as well. This guy is absolutely brutal to go against because he's tanky. He does a lot of damage. You can build him with really good stats, right? And like if you have him built out inside like a better damage dealing relic as well. So if we go to the relic index here, so if you have this guy built out, I think probably his best option is going to be, if I can find it here, the death dealer, because wearer's attacks will always be critical, so you can build him with more, you know, speed, crit damage, HP, those sorts of things, and he receives 200% more damage, which is good. Because, remember, when he takes damage, if somebody nukes him down, he reflects that damage as well, right? So an incredibly, incredibly strong relic for him. Apart from that, you can use Aspect of Seroth. If you want to throw your Wand of Submission on him, that's going to be very strong as well. Gore Crescent could be good. Chrono Cube could be decent as well with his extra turn procs. Like I mentioned, Arethi Coronet is going to be very, very strong. Cat's Gaze is decent. There's so many good relics that you could build this guy in that, you know, you're kind of spoiled for choice, right? So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what this guy is able to do in the arena. So we're going to go ahead and run against a team like this. What I've been doing is I've been bringing him in with my Taurus and Marichka. And, you know, Taurus is definitely going to get some play here as well. You know what? We're going to go ahead and back out. We're going to remove the Taurus from this. So we're just doing Marichka, Embrys, and then UDK, right? So everybody's inside Stone Skin. We're not worried at all about the Hegemon. Screw you, Hegemon. Considering how much damage he did there to my Embry Stone Skin, it's very possible that he is that he's in Stone Cleaver, which is kind of funny. So now we're going to go ahead and do our Metamorph here. We're going to go ahead and just hit the AoE without the HP swap. So boom, there we go. Everybody's taken out except the Arbiter. We don't even have to do anything. Arbiter's going to get a turn now and just take 15% of her max HP as damage, which is just insane, right? Let's go ahead, run him against a team like this. I'm sure we can probably 3-man this as well. What's so nice about him too, obviously, is that, you know, you're getting a lot of survivability inside his kit. And check this out, ladies and gentlemen. AoE strip with just the debuffs getting placed, right? Decrease speed, block buffs, weaken, decrease attack now on their entire team is just absolutely insane. Obviously, it's a bit unfortunate that we got the block active skills there from the Lydia. Fuck you, Lydia. We get the Fear on the Taurus there, which is nice. Taurus, of course, already did use his AoE slam when we were under Stone Skin, so we're not really too worried about that. He's now just going to hit into the UDK there. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to place the debuffs with Embrys, get an extra turn, right? He does get feared, unfortunately, so we do miss our Metamorph, because why wouldn't we? He can obviously be very strong with a Marichka as well, considering that she brings in allies for attacks. Taurus does come in and just absolutely slam us, but we do get a counterattack there, which is quite nice. And keep in mind, we were just feared, so we can basically just go ahead and guarantee that we get the swap. And what's kind of cool here, too, is he goes ahead and heals himself. We're going to get an AoE smack here, so we do take down the Lydia, which is quite nice. The Arbiter is going to come in and attack us, but we're not really too worried about that. We're going to get the heal with the Marichka. Now, the Lydia does come back, which means that the Necrosis isn't going to be quite as strong across their team. But it is what it is, so we're going to go ahead and just keep doing our thing here. The Lydia had too much resistance. We're going to go ahead and swap HP with you. So as you can see, it doesn't actually swap your HP if the enemy's HP is lower, so that's not something that you need to worry about. But we do get the block revive there on the Lydia, which is huge. Now, keep in mind, obviously, that if the Lydia... And we're going to get almost a block revive on the Duchess there as well. But keep in mind that if the Lydia is blocking a revive of your allies, she can bring herself back even through the block revive, right? But in this particular case, at least, there's not really going to be a way she can do that. We get the block revive on the Duchess there as well. The Necrosis is slowly stacking up. We're really just looking for ally attacks to come in from the Embry. So obviously, there it is. That should sit down the Taurus. Almost 40k on a double hitter to the Taurus is certainly not terrible. We do get slammed there, but the counterattack masteries come in clutch. And now all we have left is the Arbiter with, is that 3 stacks of Necrosis? Indeed it is, and she goes ahead and sits down. This is a 23 million player power account, by the way, from Positive Vibe Clan, who's, you know, over the top 1k rankings in the game. So maybe not the strongest account, but certainly a pretty damn strong account, all things considered. I do want to go ahead and try to fight some more stronger teams, so perhaps we'll go ahead and hit a refresh here. Something like this could be a good team to showcase him against, just because obviously we're going to get locked out. So we're also going to bring in the Harima here as a counter to the Marius to make sure that we can survive. We'll really just show you how good he is in scenarios like this. So they are fast as hell, my god. But it is what it is, right? So let's go ahead, take the hit from the Marius. Everybody gets whacked down a little bit there, unfortunately. Everybody was stunned as well, which is just crazy. And we lost our stone skin, so we might get clapped right here with Enfeeble. We get stunned, so that's a stun set Marius. That is pretty wild. What is that buff on him as well? I haven't seen that buff before. Intercept. The buff disappeared. Yeah, I'm not sure what that buff was, but there was a different buff on him that I have not seen before. So this team might be a little bit too strong. Let's go ahead and try that again. I have to buy more arena tokens. You know what? We're just going to go into tag team arena and try him against some teams here. I don't even have teams to run him against here, ladies and gentlemen. We could do a live arena fight, but there's a lot of RNG involved with that. I can't even guarantee he's going to get through, and I don't want to waste y'all's time. So that being said, there is my Embry showcase. You can see the absolute damage that he is capable of, both in PvE as well as PvP. The one area I'd really just critique my build is generally you'd want to build him with a bit more defense, so he does have a little bit more survivability as well. And then, of course, even just more HP on top, trying to get him at or over 100k will be very strong. Once I get this re-rolled into an HP percentage, he's going to be a lot better. And then, you know, there's gear here that is not even fully leveled out. Non-ascended pieces here with terrible rolls on the banner, right? So there's definitely areas to improve it. So make sure to go ahead and build him as soon as you can to really just reap the benefits from how insane this guy is. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I'll see you next time.